Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 24th of February 2023 and what an interesting time. It's all unfolding at the moment, isn't it? The earthquakes, as I said, would happen in February this year. Have really started to happen very early in February. Really, you know, it's February the 5th or 6th. The big earthquake in Turkey, the big one. And notice that the next ones that came in are all on the full of the new moon. So I guess the last one was the new moon, which was the last 6.4, I think it was, in Turkey, and then the previous, the full moon. Notice it's happening right in the alignment. Notice that when Fukushima happened, it happened on the neat moon. When it flooded here, when I was preparing to for the floods that people were saying it's not going to flood. It's not going to flood down here on the river where I am in Bath. And I was preparing for floods not on the full moon because that wasn't the time of a big flyby. But there was, if you like, the big object was flying by. The the one that caused. Not that one. We're going to discuss that. That was actually, ironically, that was the big flyby that caused the Turkey earthquake. I mean, that's a Guardian shot of it, you know. Bizarre UFO-like cloud hovers over Turkey. I was going to come to this one. I was going to come back to the, obviously, Becky Lewis's shot of the pair. 5 years ago. It was, I can remember because it was the 28th of March 2016. If I say show more, well, 28th, I thought it was, yeah, look, last night, the 28th of March, because I'd said look out for it. You know, that was exactly 100 days after the previous flyby, and I'd said this occurs every 200 days. But what's unusual in this point is that we're going to see it on both sides of its orbit, because of our position, because of previous sightings. And then we saw the pair, and that was the second shot of the pair. And the first shot was ironically on the 14th or 15th of February 2013, one day before or after the asteroid came in over Russia. And it was, you know, October was the time we had the most incredible shots. You'd have to go back to my earlier videos to see, around about that time, to see the most incredible shots that came in 2013 of the object. We might come to it. If I do, I'll see it. But we've just had thousands of the most epic shots, and this was obviously one of them. And she took you through the whole thing as they raced by, and like I say, exactly 100 days before, she'd caught one of these objects also. And I'm more of, well, that's what I'm of mind. It's always a bit confusing which are which, and I don't want to overly confuse it in this video, really. Let's say that we can expect a flyby. You know, the which shot was I looking for? Well, that object where I was talking about, you know, where I was down here kind of preparing for the flood, because the flood happened on the neat moon, and I was likening it to why Fukushima went off on the neat moon. Well, in a situation like that where the object is completely in alignment, then the you know, the seismology generally happens kind of on the either full or new moon, when all are aligned, the sun, the earth, the moon, and the object in question at that time. And there's ultimately 4 to 5 objects orbiting this dwarf planet that is very close to our sun, and objects are coming, and these 5 objects are coming off that dwarf planet, are being pulled in and coming round our sun. Well, 4 of them are, and one of them is getting very close to our sun, but it doesn't go all the way around. and we've charted these, and we've gone through that, and we've seen all the sightings that, you know, basically everything I've told you you're going to see so far, because we've charted it for so long. But with the real, you know, everything that's going on at the moment, because I've been doing it for so many years, you know, there's an absolute pattern to this, and that's all I'm trying to demonstrate here. You know, it's not even that clever. Well, it is quite clever now. I mean, it is getting really quite fantastic. You know, I started running out of answers back in using a heliocentric model. I started running out of answers for all of this on May the 4th, 2018, when we had the big long duration, first of the big long duration volcanoes, as in it wasn't Krakatoa, but it was Kilauea in Hawaii. Went off for 5 weeks non-stop, and then we had the most incredible sightings, and then everyone was seeing Jupiter absolutely massive and blue in also in May, which was very confusing. Why is Jupiter so massive? Why is Jupiter so blue? How can that be? And all the stories of the Doppler effect, and the electric universe jumped in, or it's gone completely fully charged, and that's the colour of the high amount of electromagnetic energy it's now showing, and there was we just couldn't say it because it's right there. Because we always have to have this idea that when the sun goes around the sun, when we can see it in the night sky and we're seeing it going off one way or the other, we're assuming it's going right around the sun and behind us. But why does it always have to go right around the sun behind us? Why couldn't it go, say, over the top of the sun? Because that would make it, you don't know where it is. You know, you're told it's gone right behind you, as far behind you as it would go in front of you or wherever you were in the night sky. But you don't know that. That's all supposition. When they looked at the planets, when Einstein looked at the planets in about 1908, 1909, during a total, looking at the sun during a total solar eclipse and seeing the planets and the stars beyond, and they weren't in the right places. Some couldn't be seen at all, and the whole, this was where he came up with his theories of relativity, because the sun was supposedly bending in the light rays and concealing objects behind the sun, distorting the position of planets, all because of the sun's gravitation or electromagnetic force pulling in the light into the sun, and thus making things appear behind it. Well, yeah, could be, but it also could be they just weren't there. And that is also a possibility. But, you know, The Guardian kind of covering this shot that was seen over Turkey, and the knowledge we have about the pair of these objects and the unbelievable pattern that I drew your attention to, talking about in the last video before that earthquake, about the earthquake that happened in Turkey in 1999, and looking at its position, looking at the timing of it, and how it fits in with this big 12-year pattern that fits right inside a 84-year pattern. You know, and if you look at Carlos Ferrada's prediction that Planet X would return in 1999, and he was the guy who said there would be a massive earthquake in Chile on the 20th of January 1939. And of course, if you add 84 years, the orbital duration of Uranus, to 1939, you come to now, 20th of January right up to February. It's all exactly 84 years. And obviously, you know, I say Uranus is obviously 84. Obviously, Neptune's is basically 2 times 84, and Pluto's is 3 times 84, and you know, it's 84 years between Neptune and Pluto. It's kind of 84 years between the first dwarf planet around Galileo's time, 1596, right through to Isaac Newton's time, 1681. It's 84 years pretty much before Galileo, and that time that you come to when Copernicus came up with his ideas long before his death. I mean, he released his work on his deathbed, but you know, it's basically 84 years before that time that it was postulated that he was, well, it was assumed that he was coming up with his postulations on the what has become the standard model, which has ruled our we've been running this model for a long time, and these were all Planet X coming in. This was the slow arrival of Planet X, an object. All these things orbit an object which in 1,800 years goes round whatever they orbit, whatever the sun and this dwarf planet orbit. You know, whatever these orbit, not our sun, goes around 5 times in 1,800 years, and our sun goes around 6 times in 1,800 years. So it's only 1,800 years they ever really sync up, but it's a slow arrival. It takes 400 years to come to it and 400 years to go on from it. And you know, for Carlos Rada to make that massive prediction and these amazing sightings and these amazing patterns simply means that, and the fact that we've just had all our long duration volcanoes, the longest even beating Galileo's time, and now they've all stopped. Now we're back to kind of like, now these objects are coming from, these specific objects coming in, you know, the earthquake in New Zealand and Chile at the same time all suggest that this second object is doing its passage of the ecliptic plane, and we are in what I'm assuming is going to be closest proximity to it. But it's you know, bad enough having one of these objects, let alone 2. Comments are very interesting because obviously a lot of people are shouting at Haarp, which always upsets me. But I totally open my idea, open my kind of like my worldview, if you like, as Nassim Haramein would call it. I opened up my worldview to the idea of Haarp pre-2012, I think. You know, it was one of the early old conspiracy theories that they could make massive earthquakes. Well, when I really opened my mind to it was actually the earthquake in, ironically, Fukushima, before I knew anything about Planet X. And Nexus magazine, the one that I think it was banned in America, but you could get it on there. You could get it in newsagents in here in the UK. And they ran a whole story showing the seismology, and they related it all to Haarp. And I was you know, I was open to the idea then, but subsequently, since I've seen all these shots, I mean, I saw one of the interesting comments on my video was saying, of course, it's the red cloud. And lots of comments in The Guardian saying things like it's an earthquake cloud. And, you know, it's like, you know, it's what, you know, I've just shown you so many epic shots of it, or, you know, you see the mathematics of this thing. I can now predict this thing so accurately. And the earthquakes, the volcanoes, I told you see, you know, I told you see all of this. You know, it's just very consistent. It's very, very, very consistent in its movements. You know, it's quite interesting because I saw that Jeff had his Jeff had his big conference in Acapulco. He runs the Dollar Vigilante, and Max Egan obviously spoke. They both jumped on the Haarp wagon there. Even though, you know, I mean, I did a big thing saying, guys, you're going to put your conference right over this big flyby. You literally right on this flyby. You are going to see, you know, okay, you're not going to see the biggest, but it'd been a lovely thing to come along and do a talk about this massive thing on this this time. It happened literally on their conference, and the sighting came in exactly as I said you'd see it. You know, I obviously can't guarantee what's going to happen in late February, early March. Maybe that really was it. Maybe we've moved on it, and maybe we've completely actually done the pair already, and they've got a shorter cycle. We've certainly seen a lot of activity in the kind of like February, March position over the last few years. Probably some of the biggest seismic activity, and certainly seeing. You know, in 2021, seeing, you know, opening and, you know, I was there with you know, I was just observing, just saying, guys, this is going to be pretty big. I mean, this is still early days, and we had the Icelandic volcano start in 2021 in late March, I believe, maybe early April, but I think late March, and it obviously went for the longest duration, beat any other volcano apart from in Galileo's time. And then, of course, as soon as that stopped in kind of like August, La Palma started and broke all records. In actual fact, it was La Palma that held the previous record in Galileo's time, some 400 years before. And so we're seeing these archaic patterns. And we're seeing our 84-year story we throw over the top, and World War III is being dangled in front of us, and we don't know how to navigate around it, what to quite do about any of it. And so it's just like we're just going to watch the next one of these come in now. The pair. They always seem to fly together at this point. You know, it's what to do. We just got to kind of like, you know, I just can't mathematics of this just don't allow me to see another. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world or anything else like that. This is not. You know, the objects are going to be. I don't know if I've got one of these models lined up. There's one, I suppose. Let's go to 2023. 22. Well, let's go back to 2011 just so we can see our pattern. So 2000, we'll do 2010 because the first earthquake happened obviously in the first of the caused by the pair. Can you see them? I've got them down here, neck coming in at that angle. In reality, they were coming in from the top, and that time they were all on kept them all on the same ecliptic plane, and literally because you can see how massively complex it is just to kind of like just to build this first model, bringing all of these into one big model, trying to change their ecliptic as the whole system moves, as our sun moves through the ecliptic of the planet X ecliptic plane, which is what's just happened. Notice they're talking about all the kind of like the core changing rotation. Well, can you imagine what's going to happen as our whole sun, as literally you're seeing all these volcanoes going to long duration. So we've got a much more slightly more complicated situation to going on there, you know. But these are fantastic for your meditations and for your understanding of, just to try and get a window on some of this in terms of where you are and your place and how you communicate with with Great Spirit. A big part of that is navigation, where you're connecting and who you, where you see yourself, because it's a big part of where you're energetically coming from and who you energetically are in service to, and where you're giving your energy. And we're in a very dead system of a static sun that we can't give motion to, because all our major players that are invented every 84 years all suggest that the sun is moving in a different direction. So we just have to put all the planets, but you can imagine they're all actually coming and getting very much closer to the sun at this point, and then coming back round like this in a much more non-concentric orbit. So it's so you've got a lot going on, and maybe I've got this all wrong. Maybe I've really got this all wrong, but you can see the twins coming in there anyway, and there's Earth, and then we go around 2011, and now they've dropped slightly back further than they were exactly 1 year before, because every year they're going to drop one calendar month back, and the other object that's coming in, the big blue object, is going to move almost one calendar month forward. I think it is one calendar month forward, almost exactly. It would appear that seems to be all the orbital mechanics of it, and so then we come back to, you'll see that as we come round to 2012, Earth is now moving far forward from, not far forward, but considerably further forward from, and then we're coming back to 2013, and Earth is even further forward now at that critical point. And so we're just going to keep coming now to, you can see now in 2000 and these I've had to stretch these out. Obviously, this isn't exact in any way. This was the first model to try and attempt to see bring all the different flybys and attempt to see how that could possibly work, and whether it could all possibly work in one flowing motion in a big model. And so I've had to, but we're talking about the mathematics much more here, you know, because obviously this object has moved down here, and this object has moved along, and trying to incorporate those into, with my basic animation skills, which as you can see are very, very, very basic. It's these objects, obviously, you know, I'm just trying to capture the orbital mechanics in terms of their timings, but you're seeing the pattern of that, and then we come to the mathematics are that this, because of what we've seen in the 12-year pattern, that when these big 12-year cycles fit perfectly in you get like 7 5 12s are 60, 6 12s are 72, 7 12s are 84. Yeah, you get 7 cycles of 12 in 84, and that seems to be, and yet you know, someone asked me about all the orbital, you know, the cosmology, if you like, of this, in terms of kind of like in terms of a zodiac. And I would ask anyone who's going to attempt to start building a zodiac and start working out where these planets were at the time of your birth and at the time of your conception, and start, because this has taken 400 years to come in, it's going to take 400 years to go out. You have a zodiac going on, and we'll have a zodiac going on for the next 400 years. That is very, very intriguing, and it'd be so interesting to know, because I can see where I was at the point of conception and the point of birth, and I find that quite interesting to kind of. So I'd be very interesting to work with people who would like to know that information about themselves. Yeah, maybe we could. Maybe I should start thinking about that a little bit more. A zodiac for all of this. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on those ideas. yeah, that's where we're at really. Apart from obviously the big blue object, which I call Hydra, which you can see coming in here in this video, and that's coming. That's going to cross in. That's going to cross on this side. In when do we think that's going to cross? That's going to be. It can be. I don't know if you remember. If we go to 2020. There was the twins again. I mean, we see there's the twins again. You know, there's just so many shots of the twins. But you remember this shot, very reminiscent to that shot. Where is it gone? To that shot. You know, same object. Smaller on that side, but getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that was in 2020, and it's just getting, you know, we're getting closer and closer and closer every year. It's been getting closer and closer and closer to its exit point, which, you know, it takes work. You know, it's let's face it, it's almost half its orbit, and we know it's taking about 13 years to kind of like to come back to. No, it's not. It's taking overall, well, it's every year it's 1 month further ahead, and that's the orbital mechanics that seems to bring it back into sync at the times we see it, and the patterns that we see going on with this. This was what caused the flood on the neat moon. Because when you saw it here, it was coming from the southern aspect going into the northern. And then, you know, I've shown you all the subsequent shots since then. Turkey Report have shown some utterly... let's go over to... just see if I can see Turkey Report down there. I've got my cursor right over the videos, but yeah, he was the one who caught that, and obviously he was the you notice that was seen over Mount Shasta as well, and he was obviously he'd obviously posted that shot on the 7th of January. Now that was in the northern hemisphere, seen in Alaska. So it's going up into the northern into the northern aspect of our solar system. So you can understand when the moon is not in alignment with the sun, moon, and Earth, when they're not all in alignment, and the moon goes into its neap state with the least amount of if you like, gravitational hold beyond the Earth, like the needle of a compass, it gets drawn up from its normal orbit. It experiences, whether you call it a perturbation, I'm not too sure, but it comes up and it exerts a pressure on the northern aspect of the oceans in a way during the neap moon, and that creates king tides on the neap moon, when we've been seeing a few of those in this situation, and it's predictable, so much so that I can be down here and preparing for it, and it comes. That's not what's going to happen, I don't think, with what's coming in, or that could be in this next week or two. It could be, but the full moon, that's where I'd be saying it's going to be the biggest attention. Try not to be in too many buildings on and around the full moon. Take care, honey in the heart. Thank you.